guys, this is Derek, Leica 101. Welcome to the Page of Many Things. And in this video, we're going to be continuing our Kygreum Campaign setting set of videos with another look at the section of videos about races in my homemade setting, Kygreum, specifically within the continent of Calymros. Last time we talked about the Adelinians and a few other races, such as the elves, the dwarves, and now we're going to focus on the humans and a little bit into the half-elves. And that will conclude the section, this section of the video. And we will have probably one more. I'll try to wrap it up in one more video. So this will be a three-part series about races. So let's get talking about humans. I personally love what Pathfinder has done in their campaign setting and given humanity a wide breadth of cultures. I believe there are 10. Don't quote me on that. But there are quite a few. And the reason I like that is because even here on Earth we have such a wide breadth of humanity that you can't just always classify one set of people as human. We have people from Russia who are completely different from people from South America, or people in Australia who are completely different than Aboriginal people from Alaska, or anywhere in between. So there are so many different cultures that I try to do the same within my campaign setting. And within Calymros, the main continent that I run my campaigns in, there are 4 different kinds of cultures of humanity. Those are the Etherians, the Genovasians, the Karistar, and the Varisians. Now, Varisians, of course, belong to Pathfinder, but when I read them in the Inner Sea World Guide, I fell in love with them immediately, just because they are a group of traveling people who have this mystical quality about them, that they're traveling gypsies that they just have such a evocative culture and traveling caravan kind of nomadic lifestyle that instantly made me want to grab onto them and just add them right into the campaign setting. So they didn't change much from what Pathfinder has done with them, except that they don't belong just to an area called Varisia. They're called Varisians because of the word Varisia in their language means to travel, and then to be a Varisian means to be a traveler. So that's how I adapted it. And that's all that they really do. They travel around. They're known all across the continent as the travelers and the wanderers, and they're typically like the bards and traveling gypsies, pretty much like how they've stayed in Pathfinder. And on the exact opposite hand, we have the Etherians. Now, the Etherians are the evocative Middle Age European English kind of mentality that you think of. They are the castle builders. They are the family unit. Their culture is based around the great houses, and they are very noble. They're the knights. They're the ones that pull out the heavily armored cavalry, and they fly their massive banners with their different house sigils. And they're very what's the word I'm looking for? They're very drawn towards their history, and they take great pride in who they are as a family and where their family comes from. They call themselves the First Men because they have the longest running history, written recorded history of humanity about themselves. And they came about with the union of 2 great houses, House Tempest and House Blackwood. And those 2 houses united together and then created a massive war that then united all the other houses together under a single banner of House Tempest. And like I said, these are the classic medieval archetypes. So we have a lot of political intrigue that goes on, and court involvement, and people always trying to one-up the other for political dominance. and their clothing style and etc. all goes along with that. They have the upper crust of society has the nice aristocratic robes and flowing outfits and headdresses, whereas the poor classes are drab and browns, and they know how to get their hands dirty and work. And so we have these two split or two completely different sets of society in the Etherians and the Versians. Well, then we have two more societies. The next one is the Genevasians. They are the tan-skinned islanders who live right on the eastern coast of Calamos on the Isles of Genoves. And um, the Genevasians are very flamboyant. They like to look nice. They look good. Their cultural color is purple, and so they like to have large fedoras and hats with large feathers, and they have like a very peacock society where men and women both dress to impress, but it hides a very uh, publicly known secret. Everybody knows about this secret, but you don't really have to say it out loud. So the Genevasians are all well-trained assassins. Um, and they favor crossbows, and particularly their sects of assassins specialize in dual wielding crossbows, and that's how they go around with their assassinations. And so they're often employed by the other races who just want a quick and dirty deed, or they're hired out as bodyguards because they always, like I said, they wear their color of purple and say, "Hey, we're Genevasians. You know what we do. Don't screw with these people, or we're gonna have to come get you." So they, like I said, they specialize with crossbows, but they also are adept with different kinds of poisons on their tropical island that they live on. And so they have this unique section due to their geography that since they live off the coast, that they are they're politically connected to the rest of Calamos and that major continent. But they also have this small independence that if they choose to, that they can just kind of ignore everything else that goes on. So it kind of gives them this air of superiority where they look down slightly and they're "Oh, you're so and so. I don't really care who you are because I'm better than you." So that's kind of how the Genevasians view themselves, and they are always willing to kill someone for the proper price. Lastly, in terms of humans, we have the Karistar, which my inspiration came from the Dothraki from Game of Thrones, the Riders of Rohan from Lord of the Rings, and the Huns, and in terms of our own world. Uh, so what we have is this really large culture around horses. Uh, the one thing I did want to get, I stripped down from the Huns and the Dothraki is I got rid of the barbarianism kind of side of things and kind of left it more almost like the Riders of Rohan, where they have an established settlement, and that's the city of Herodine, and that's in the southeast on the Great Plains. And the Karistar are the horse lords. They always, 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 if they can, prefer to be on horseback or have a horse nearby and work with horses. Their specific little ability that I always, it's not necessarily ability, but it's a cultural trait that I put into the works that way players can understand them, is they have an innate knowledge of horses to the point where if they meet someone new, a Karistarn is more likely to say, "Show me your horse and I'll tell you who you are." So they just automatically can tell by breed of horse, quality of care, um, ornamentation on the horse breed, etc., who the person that it belongs to likely is. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they would see the horse and then know that person's name, but due to the quality of care, if the horse is looking downtrodden and isn't really well taken care of, then a Karistan would turn to the person and say, "Oh, I know who you are. You're a worthless layabout who doesn't take care of anything else." And they see qualities in horsemanship that can be related to a person. So they have this this love of horses, and have the largest cavalry and mobile cavalry in terms of the entire continent. They Their army consists primarily of cavalry with small legions of spearmen and foot soldiers. Their most effective formation in terms of military tactics is a circle archery formation where they encircle their enemy and can ride while shooting around in a circle and then peel off and then switch to melee if it becomes necessary. So their culture is all about the quality of horses, and their leaders are chosen based upon that kind of background, their ability to raise horses, to tend horses, and how they interact with the horse, who they view as equal to a dog in terms of companionship. And it's a living creature that everyone has to tend to make sure that it survives and form a close bond with. So it's a unique form of relationship with the Karastar that they have with their horses, almost mystical, if you will. And lastly, we're going to talk about the half-elves. Now, in terms of the history of my world, the races did not get along, and there's an entire section of history called the Race Wars. During this time, there are no half-elves or half-orcs, because the races hate each other and refuse to interbreed. And if there ever was one, if there was a rape or something, then the child would either be killed or tossed out into the wilderness to be eaten, because it was a huge disgrace. But now that the races work together and everyone is learned to cooperate, that there are starting to be more half-elves and half-orcs that crop up across Kalimnos. So what we get is this outside looking in mentality, where the half-elves see the elven society on one hand and then the human society on the other, and that they can see good and bad qualities on both sides, but they don't really belong to either one. And as their numbers increase, they pull farther and farther away from each culture and try to pull the best qualities and create their own. So what we see is a breakup in the usual dichotomy of the half-elf, where it's, I usually just stay with one parent or the other. And now with my half-elves, is that they see the good and bad. They see why an elf can be attracted to a human and a human is attracted to an elf. But that doesn't mean they necessarily want to continue that kind of mindset. They want to create their own mindset, become their own people. And then it's this pulling away from the rest of society, where they're kind of outsiders, where they're accepted by the majority of the other races and individuals, but they don't really accept themselves. So there's this war inside their head and inside their spirituality. So we're at the 13, almost probably 14-minute mark, and I think we should stop here for section 2 on the races of Kalimnos. I hope you guys are enjoying learning about these races. Next time we'll be talking about the orcs, half-orcs, orcs and half-orcs, and then on to the races of the Shadowlands, which is a sub-country, if you will, on Kalimnos, where we will be talking about the Dhampir, the half-vampire, the vampires, the Shadarkai, and Tieflings, and Makar. So we might actually break this up into 4 parts, depending on how long these take. So, I've been Derek, Lycan 101. As always, thanks for watching, folks. Tune in next time where we talk more about the races of Kalimnos here on the Kygreum Campaign setting. Thanks for watching.